Teal dear, you might be looking at the title of this video and thinking, God damn it, you clickbaity bastard, what nonsense is this? Well, bear with me, and I shall explain. You know how in recent years we've seen all manner of interesting stories coming out from certain political groups, which try to either gender or racialize problems which really aren't gendered or racially segregated at all. For instance, throughout 2015, you might have encountered several articles talking about things like climate change being sexist, and several ways in which climate change affects women more than men. And they often go on to use some very dubious reasoning to try and justify how a global problem somehow affects a certain part of the population more so than the other, even though they all share the same areas of land and interaction with the environment around them. Well, we're seeing the same thing again, except this time it's slightly different. What we're going to do now is look at an advert from thenextlungcanceract.eu. And I'm going to break this advert down into two halves, and we're going to watch the second half first. Now, this is not me attempting to manipulate what's being said or take anything that's being said out of context or any other nonsense like that. The reason that I'm doing this is because the second half of the advert is a very reasonable message, but the first half, well, we'll look at that when we get there. So let's take a look-see at the second half.
But there is hope for so many lung cancer patients throughout Europe. If you have a cough that's not quite right, or you're short of breath, are experiencing weight loss, loss of appetite, or hoarseness, stop acting and take action. Be aware, get checked, and talk to your doctor about lung cancer.
Now that is completely and utterly reasonable, I think. Here are some basic symptoms of lung cancer. If you've got any of them yourself, go and speak to a doctor, or if you know someone who does, encourage them to speak to one. I am completely on board with this advice. Lung cancer is a horrible disease for anyone to get, and encouraging anyone to go and see their doctor if they might have it is fundamentally a good thing. But now what I'd like to do is look at the first half of this advert.
Several women have played a key role in my life. How? Well, it's a woman who gave me life, it's a woman whom I love, and a woman whom my daughter will one day become. But it's women who are too often being taken from us because of lung cancer.
Yes, it's the good old women have it worse angle. Women are the ones being affected by lung cancer. Women are the ones being taken away from us by lung cancer. So this got me thinking, what exactly are the rates of lung cancer both in people contracting the disease and people dying from the disease throughout Europe? So I decided to start off with the UK just to see what it was like out of idle curiosity. From cancerresearchuk.org, the latest numbers I could find were from 2013, and are divvied up as an average rate per 100,000 of the population in the UK. So across the entirety of the UK, male cases 24,481, female cases 21,044. Breaking that down across the countries, England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. In England, males 19,830, females 16,823. In Wales, the male rate is 1,326, female 1,057. For Scotland, the male rate is 2,652, females 2,625. Scotland by far the most egalitarian country when it comes to rates of lung cancer, it seems. And Northern Ireland, male cases 673, female cases 539. So throughout the entirety of the UK, and indeed in every single country that constitutes the United Kingdom, males are more likely to contract lung cancer than females. But what about rates of mortality? Once again from cancerresearchuk.org, this time the latest number I could find was from 2014, and once again it's per 100,000 of the population. So the UK entirety of deaths from lung cancer. Male 19,563, females 16,332. Breaking down by constituent parts, in England, male deaths 15,856, females 12,993. Wales, male death rate 1,070, females 899. Scotland, male death 2,119, females 1,998. And Northern Ireland, male deaths 518, female 442. Once again, going by the UK numbers, males are more likely than females to be killed by lung cancer. And just to give a little bit more information on this, I'm just going to read from the paragraphs above the charts. Lung cancer is the third most common cancer in the UK, accounting for 13% of all new cases. It is the second most common cancer in both males, 14%, and females, 12%. In 2013, there were 45,525 new cases of lung cancer in the UK, 24,481, 54% in males, and 21,044, 46% in females, giving a male-female ratio of around 12 to 10. The crude incident rate shows that there are 78 new lung cancer cases for every 100,000 males in the UK and 65 for every 100,000 females. Lung cancer is the most common cause of cancer death in the UK, accounting for 22% of all cancer deaths. In males, it is the most common cause of cancer death in the UK, 23% of all male cancer deaths, whilst it is the most common cause of cancer death in females in the UK, 21% of all female cancer deaths. In 2014, there were 35,895 lung cancer deaths in the United Kingdom. 19,563, 55% in males, and 16,332, 45% in females, giving a male-female ratio of around 12 to 10. The crude mortality rate shows that there are 62 lung cancer deaths for every 100,000 males in the UK and 50 for every 100,000 females. So lung cancer in the UK pretty definitively more likely to affect males than females across the board. But of course the UK is not Europe, so let's have a look at some of the European-wide figures for rates of lung cancer. From Eurostat, cancer statistics, breaking down by specific cancer type. Lung cancer. Within the EU, lung cancer was the most common cause of death among cancers, accounting for 1/5 of all deaths from cancer. In 2012, more than 250,000 people died from lung cancer in the EU 28, just over 1/5 of all deaths from cancer and 5.4% of the total number of deaths. The share of deaths attributed to lung cancer was 7.5% for men, more than double the share, 3.3% for women. So throughout the entirety of Europe, men are more than twice as likely to die from lung cancer than women. But let's read on, shall we? In 2012, the EU 28 standardized death rate for lung cancer was 55.5 per 100,000 inhabitants, higher than the rates for the 3 other types of cancer presented in the article. An analysis by gender and by age shows large differences in the standardized death rates for lung cancer. For men, the rate was 88.9 per 100,000 inhabitants, nearly 3 times higher as for women, which was 30.3 per 100,000 inhabitants. That document then goes on to list which countries had the highest and lowest rates, but that's not particularly relevant to what we're looking at. But from what we've seen so far, lung cancer, several orders of magnitude more likely to affect men than women. A report from the European Commission from 2014 sheds a little bit more light on the gender disparity regarding lung cancer, and several other cancers besides. The estimated total number of cancer-related deaths in the European Union, EU27, in 2012 was 1,263 million, of which 56%, 708,000 in men, and 44%, 555,000, in women. Lung cancer, with an estimated 310,000 deaths, 24.5% of the total, was the most frequent cause of death from cancer in Europe in 2012, followed by colorectal cancer, 150,000 deaths, which was 11.9%, breast cancer, which was 91,000, 7.2%, and stomach cancer, 58,000, 4.6%. Lung cancer continued to be the most common cause of death for cancer in men, 183,000 or 25.9%, followed by colorectal cancer, 82,000, and prostate cancer at 71,000. Breast cancer was the leading cause of death in women, 91,000 or 16.3%, followed by colorectal, which was 68,000, and lung cancer, which was 81,000, and finally ovarian cancer at 30,000. Now I'd like to stick the brakes on there and just highlight something which the more eagle-eyed of you out there have spotted already. Deaths of men from lung cancer in the EU, 183,000. Deaths of women from lung cancer in the EU, 81,000. Men, 183,000. Women, 81,000. More than 100,000 more men died from lung cancer in the EU than women. But what did that guy say earlier?
But it's women who are too often being taken from us because of lung cancer. But it's women who are too often being taken from us because of lung cancer. But it's women who are too often being taken from us because of lung cancer. But it's women who are too often being taken from us because of lung cancer.